This just might be the one bipartisan issue left in the entire country. When Bill Clinton was running for president, he promised to integrate openly gay service members into the military, and he made a good faith effort to make good on this promise. Unfortunately, he faced massive resistance from the public, from Congress, and from the military itself. And as a result, we got Don't Ask, Don't Tell as a compromise. The military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy is actually called Don't Ask, Don't Tell, Don't Pursue, Don't Harass. Under it, the military discharges any service member who has stated that he or she is a homosexual or has engaged in a homosexual act. Essentially, don't come out of the closet and don't be openly gay. Now, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is unique among laws in the United States. It is the only one which makes coming out a crime. And while it pretends that there are no gay service members, in reality, there are around 65,000. Now, some people may argue, Don't Ask, Don't Tell isn't that bad. After all, the first half is Don't Ask. As long as you hush up, you'll be fine. But in practice, that's not really true. According to a 2000 survey by the Inspector General, 80% of service members have reported hearing offensive speech, derogatory names, jokes, or remarks about gay service members in the past year. Even more alarmingly, 85% reported that this homophobia was actually tolerated. The bottom line is that we have a hostile, unwelcome, and intolerant environment, and the don't harass portion of Don't Ask, Don't Tell is too often ignored. Unfortunately, this does have its victims. Private Winchell was suspected of being gay by his fellow service members. On the 4th of July weekend, of all weekends, 4th of July, in 1999, while he was sleeping, Private Winchell was beaten to death with a baseball bat. He was struck repeatedly in the head, he went into a coma, and he died. This murder was not pretty. It was extremely graphic and it was extremely brutal. Here's a quote from Rolling Stone. "Soldiers rushed to the scene and found Winchell with blood streaming from his left ear, his brain oozing from a gaping crack in his skull, his entire head swelling to the size of a basketball." Defenders of the status quo tend to argue that the military is not a social institution. First and foremost, it's responsible for war fighting. Well, even if that's true, even if the military exists only to win wars, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is a national security threat. Under it, we are bleeding both blood and treasure. We're kicking out thousands of soldiers and throwing away hundreds of millions of dollars that we could be using. Even if we care about national security, we would do well to toss it aside. At the same time we've been kicking people out, we've had a massive recruiting problem, largely because of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. In fiscal year 2005, the Army missed its recruiting goal by 7,000 soldiers. And even while this was happening, we were dramatically lowering our standards. We were raising the maximum age requirement, lowering our proficiency requirements, and getting a less educated military. We were also issuing so-called moral waivers. Last year, almost 1 in 6 Army recruits had a problem in their background that would have disqualified them from military service. That category includes aggravated assault, robbery, vehicular manslaughter, receiving stolen property, and making terrorist threats. I mean, if you take somebody who can't handle this, and you give them this, then you are liable to get this. It really is worth emphasizing, whether because of money or because of soldiers, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is a national security threat. Don't Ask, Don't Tell costs us a massive, massive amount of money. Building an army is expensive. To get a soldier, you have to recruit him, you have to train him, and you have to equip him. But then if you then in turn kick him out just because he's gay, you have to do this all over again. I want to look at the case of Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach. Colonel Fehrenbach is a true American hero. He's an 18-year veteran of the United States Air Force. He has flown 88 combat missions, logging a total of 400 combat hours. He has earned 9 air medals, including one for valor. While his wingman was having a system failure and 8 surface-to-air missiles were being shot at him, he destroyed around a dozen armored personnel carriers, just about saving the day. The bottom line is that he is a fantastic soldier. But unfortunately, that doesn't matter. Because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, we are kicking him out of our military. For him, it's a great personal tragedy. He's being forced to leave a mere 2 years before he can collect his full pension with benefits. But even if you don't care about that, even if you're a pure utilitarian, We spent $25 million training this man. The last thing we should do is kick him out. And he's not alone. There are countless others like him. Willing, able, and eager to serve, but prohibited to because of sheer homophobia. Perhaps the most widely cited argument in favor of the status quo is unit cohesion. Defenders argue that if we had openly gay service members, that would create social tensions within the military that would prohibit its members from working together towards a common objective. Now here are some quotes about unit cohesion. I want to read them to you. There is no more intimate relationship. They eat and sleep together. They use the same facilities day after day. They are compelled to stay together in the closest association. And the second quote, experiments within the Army are, in the solution of social problems, are fraught with danger to efficiency, discipline, and morale. So these are the kind of arguments that are being used in favor of the status quo. Can anybody guess who these quotes are from?
Ann Coulter.
Sorry? Ann Coulter? Well, actually no, that's not even from the same time period. These are by Senator Richard Russell and General Omar Bradley, arguing against the integration of African Americans into the military. Unit cohesion is not new. It is a stale, recycled argument. Just like the military integrated African Americans, it can integrate openly gay service members. Unit cohesion was a fallacy then, it's a fallacy now, and ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell would work. We really are unique among Western countries. Of the 26 which participate militarily in NATO, 22 do not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. We are one of only 4 which do. Now, in these other countries which have integrated, you may have predicted huge negative effects. In Canada, 62% of soldiers said they would refuse to share showers with their gay comrades, and in the United Kingdom, 2/3 said they would not serve alongside them. However, when they actually integrated, nothing happened. The result was no effect. The empirical evidence is overwhelming. Non-discrimination works. The rest of the world has already proven it. It's about time we open our eyes, see what's happening around us, and do the right thing. Now, might this actually happen? Is this a pipe dream, or do we stand a chance? I would argue it's the latter. There is a lot of elite opinion that's coming around and realizing Don't Ask, Don't Tell is wrong. Non-discrimination is supported by over 100 retired admirals and generals. Among them is General John Shalikashvili, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking officer in the entire military when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was introduced. Even he says the policy has to go. And public opinion is on the right side of the issue. 75% of Americans, 3/4, support ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now this is way up from where public opinion stood in 1993. This includes 64%, almost 2/3 of Republicans. But there is some bad news. The military is on the wrong side of this question by a 37-26 margin. But I really don't think that's that big of a deal. Keep in mind what I just said about Canada and the United Kingdom. In those countries, right before integration, the military claimed that it would throw a huge fit. But when integration actually happened, nothing materialized. Everything stayed the same. The same thing will happen here. And finally, there isn't huge institutional opposition. Admiral Mike Mullen, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said that if integration does occur, I'll certainly lead it and carry it out. So how does it look on the legislative side? Ever since he began his campaign, President Obama has promised to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Every single Democratic candidate running for president in 2008 made this exact same pledge. Now, while President Obama remains committed to this principle, he hasn't laid out a specific timeline for repeal. Don't ask him, because he's not telling. Finally, both public and elite opinion are turning around. They recognize that Don't Ask, Don't Tell must go. The political stars are aligned, and we can and should act while we still can.